Celeste is a 2D platformer about a girl climbing a mountain to get out of a depression rut that just so happens to be so fucking difficult that playing it will give you depression. Somehow, despite my general distaste for difficult games and a first playthrough where I wasn't kidding, Celeste has quickly dashed its way into my top 3 2D platformers. So how did Celeste manage to be so enjoyable to me despite being so difficult? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but for now I want to focus on the presentation! I won't dwell on it for too long, but holy shit, just look at this pixel art. It's obvious that a painstaking amount of work went into the visuals of Celeste because this is some of the most gorgeous pixel art that I have ever seen. In addition to pixel art, there's also a decent amount of hand-drawn art, which doesn't scream ambition as much as the pixel art to me, but it's still really well made and charming. I'm a sucker for this thick line art too, which you probably know about me if you've seen some of my artwork. I do wish there was a more consistent style here though. There's a lot of drawings in this game and it can be such a mishmash of different styles at times, but they're not different enough that it feels like an intentional decision. However, this is a really minor nitpick. The drawings may not all fit like a perfect glove together, but it's never too jarring, and on an individual level, all the hand-drawn art looks really good. Something that's not as good, and I know I might piss some people off with this one, is the music. Okay, I think it would be wrong of me to say that the music isn't good, so let me clarify real quick. It's not that I think the music is bad per se, or even that I don't enjoy it. I just don't find the music to be memorable. There's a few memorable moments that are enhanced by the music, but even in those situations, I'm hard-pressed to actually fucking remember any of the melodies later on. The one exception here would be Reach for the Summit, but that's probably because it's a persistent leitmotif throughout the game that plays in my favorite chapter. I guess the soundtrack feels like it was made more to serve the game than to be memorable, which is perfectly respectable, but it's not my cup of tea. I really don't have anything to say about the music anymore, so I'll just stop and move on to the gameplay. Unlike the last game I talked about, the most important element that goes into making Celeste work is, the actual fucking video game. I've made it clear so far in this review that I don't really like difficult games. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's just how I am. Despite this fact, this is one of the most fulfilling 2D platformers that I've ever played, especially on repeat playthroughs. Even though the challenges presented to you are very difficult at times, it persistently remains fair and sometimes even biased toward the player because the game has a really lenient physics engine. To name one of the most well-known examples of this, Celeste has a mechanic that's been dubbed Coyote Time. During Coyote Time, there is a small window after you've walked off a ledge in which you can still jump. It's such a small thing that the average player probably won't even notice, but their experience will be all the better for it. There's a lot of helpful leniencies that are programmed into the game too, not just Coyote Time. Players who know about these different mechanics can even take advantage of them to help with more difficult sections. Like this one time that I jumped under the geared platform, grabbed onto the other side and easily accessed the strawberry. Speaking of strawberries, those exist and are dispersed into different spots in each chapter. Existent is the best way to define them because there's literally no reward or perk to grabbing them. Well, there's a tiny one, but it doesn't affect gameplay at all and I don't want to spoil it. The strawberries may sound unimportant, and I mean, they literally are, but at the same time they're an amazing addition to the game, especially for repeat playthroughs. They give incentive to explore the stage for secrets and are otherwise a nice little extra dose of enjoyment during platform challenges. The one downside to strawberries is that for players like me, otherwise known as tryhards, it can be very hard to ignore strawberries, especially when replaying a chapter that I've already completed. I'm going to choose to chalk this up as a personal flaw, but at the same time it's certainly not an uncommon flaw for people to feel too prideful to make things easier for themselves. Speaking of feeling too prideful to make things easier for yourself, there's a feature called Assist Mode. It's like this game's answer to Easy Mode in a 2D platformer without having to spend time altering level design. Assist Mode allows you to slow the game down, have infinite stamina for climbing, have infinite air dashes, get dash assist, and also invincibility. Of course, all of these don't have to be turned on at once, and you can fine-tune things to your comfort if you feel the need to use Assist Mode. I'd recommend starting with slowing the game down since that's the least fundamentally game-breaking option. Speaking of fine-tuning things, you see how hard I'm stretching for these segues? The controls in this game are fine-tuned to perfection. Seriously, do you want to know why I like Celeste despite its difficulty? So much of it is just the way that Madeline controls. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but the controls are about as accurate as they can possibly get without feeling jarring. Your inputs cause nearly instantaneous stops and starts. This creates such a perfect platforming experience where you're in complete control as you navigate through these frustratingly difficult but always fair bite-sized challenges that compose every chapter. I've said chapter a few times at this point, so I feel like I should go into the slightly unconventional way this game is structured. Rather than being composed of a bunch of small to medium-sized levels like most platformers, Celeste has a few very large chapters. Each chapter is composed of many small rooms that are sometimes even small enough that the entire room will fit on the screen. Each room is like its own little hurdle for the player to jump over. You can save and quit at any time to be back at the start of the room when you load your save. This structure is absolutely flawless for a game like Celeste that is intentionally filled to the brim with difficult challenges. As someone who effectively did their playthroughs in one sitting each due to time constraints, I don't think I could urge you any more to take advantage of the lenient system Celeste has for its chapters. If you don't, then you'll probably end up more emotionally drained than Madeline, the main character of Celeste. If there's one thing I can really appreciate about this game, it has to be the way the story is told through gameplay. I'll try not to get super heavy into spoiler territory, but Madeline is more or less climbing Celeste Mountain as a way to get over a slump she's in from depression and generally poor mental health. The difficulty of this game where you climb a fucking stupid mountain from hell is like a physical way to feel Madeline's struggle throughout the story, and the ending of the game is like a high that makes every frustrating and soul-crushing part of the journey worth it. I'm someone who has and still does struggle with issues like depression, and while I won't try and sell this as some life-changing replacement for therapy like some people have on the internet, it spoke to me as I played it, and I enjoyed what it had to say. I really don't think there's a better story premise to match the gameplay than a depressed transgender girl climbing a mountain. So, did we deserve Celeste? As much as I want to say, yes, we deserve this annoying pile of fucking ass-eating, dog-shit-slinging bitch dick while I was playing the game, I cannot say we deserved it in any good faith. We did not deserve Celeste. It really is an amazing game, and I think it'll go down as an absolute classic 2D platformer in the future, much like how we view so many classic Nintendo games from the early to mid-90s right now in the present. Despite how much Celeste can feel like bullshit at times, each challenge is nothing if not fair, even generous to the player. The game effortlessly introduces new gimmicks in each chapter without the need for a single text box spelling everything out to you, leading to an amazingly designed, streamlined, and challenging 9 out of 10 2D platformer that I would recommend to anyone. Fuck the hotel chapter though.